Mrs Caine.
Thank you, Mr President. I would like to ask the Minister for Environment, Food and Agriculture when wool payments will be made to farmers for 2019 and 2020, and if he will make a statement.
Minister for Environment, Food and Agriculture, Mr Burt, to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. The sale of wool on the island is governed by the Control of Wool, Isle of Man. My department is responsible for the Control of Wool, Isle of Man Order 1957, which is made under the Agricultural Marketing No. 2 Act 1948. To answer the Honourable Member's question, the wool payments for 2019 are scheduled to reach the relevant farmers' bank accounts by the end of July. I would, however, point out there has been a steady decline worldwide in the demand for wool products. As a consequence, the price achieved for wool has fallen quite dramatically over the last 4 years. During this time, my department has been making every effort to realise the best price for the sheep farmers of the Isle of Man. Payments to the farmers can only be made when their wool has been graded and sold in the UK markets, which this year has been later than normal. The costs of all the grading, storing, exporting are reduced from the wool price realised at market, and this forms the payment to farmers. I am pleased to confirm that despite the very low prices in the UK market this year, all farmers will be receiving positive payments, even allowing for deductions. Mr President, because of the continued decrease in the price of the island farmers receive, my department intends to carry out a full review of the function of wool control and is currently arranging to meet key stakeholders in the sector to explore options that would best suit the industry going forward.
Mrs Caine, supplementary.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank the Minister for the undertaking to look at innovative ideas, hopefully, for the future. A couple of queries, please. Can you tell us when the Wool Board last met and what their role is in terms of the wool prices? And I think you mentioned the 1957 Act. Is that relevant for today? And given the environmental and climate crisis, would he consider that the involving stakeholders in the future of wool prices and hopefully increasing the value of wool, might that include insulation for houses or mulch for trees, things that are vital in the sort of green economy going forward? But actually, is he aware that currently a number of farmers are leaving, discarding the wool, the fleeces, on land because it's more expensive to get it to be graded than it is to discard it or even burn it. And I think as one farmer he may be aware of, burning it is now preferable to having it collected in. And doesn't he feel that that's a shame for a natural resource?
Minister to reply.
Thank you, Mr President. I can't tell you when the Wool Board last met, and I will research that and let you know. As to the 1957 Act and its relevance to the present situation, it may not be as relevant as it used to be, and certainly that's why we're reviewing the way we're dealing with wool going forward. And from a department's point of view, we've offered this as a service to farmers, and wool has almost become an animal welfare issue rather than a value added to the animals, and that's a function of the worldwide market. In terms of getting the best price, we do what we can. We work through the auction houses in the UK. You have to remember that the Isle of Man is a very small market, or part of that market. The board we deal with in the UK deals with 40,000 farmers UK-wide. And in terms of wool being used as insulation, to a certain extent this has happened and is happening in the UK, but it is a low value item, and in terms of processing it on island, we've looked at that and it's just not feasible and viable. With regard to disposing of wool, obviously it's up to the farmers what they do with it. It's an organic material. I don't like the idea of wool being burnt. It doesn't sound like a good use of a natural resource. As I said in the original answer, there was a positive return on all wool that was processed last year. So I think that's a drastic move, but it's one that the farmers may or may not wish to pursue, and certainly at the moment, if they believe that's the best way of doing it. I don't like it. I don't think it's environmentally friendly, and it's not a good use of a natural resource, but it is a way forward.
Final supplementary.
Thank you, Mr President. A very quick supplementary. Appreciate all the Minister has indicated in terms of working with the farmers and the sheep farmers in the future. But could I just ask if he could improve the communication perhaps between his department and the sheep farmers in terms of the wool and being left dangling for a considerable amount of time before receiving word about when payment is due, leading to many of them having to inquire with the department. They say they automatically get texts on all sorts of matters that don't concern them individually. So perhaps the text service or others could be used more regularly to keep people informed.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. I think this year it has been slightly delayed because of the coronavirus pandemic, and a lot of things sadly have been delayed. But I think farmers are aware of the process and the fact that it has to be graded and it isn't sold until the following spring, as it were. So if they feel communication isn't that good, I'm very happy to commit to helping improve that process going forward.